Welcome to this episode of Becoming, Navigating Identity, Leadership, and Career Transitions. I'm Minnie Karanja, Executive and Career Coach. In this space, we explore the journeys that shape how we lead, grow, and make decisions in our professional lives. Today, I'm joined by Pascal Okwundu. Pascal is a technology founder, passionate about solving problems that create friction in the human experience. As the founder of Binta, he leads a team of curious and determined visionaries working to reimagine how newcomers and Canadians experience financial services. His work sits at the intersection of financial inclusion, accessibility, and innovation, with a focus on building systems that expand opportunity and reduce barriers. Drawing on his experience across private equity, banking, technology, and management consulting, Pascal is building a financial platform empowering long term well being for everyone. He is committed to leveraging technology as a catalyst for shaping the future of finance in North America and beyond. Welcome to the podcast, Pascal.
Thank you so much, Minnie. Good to be here.
Thank you. So, you're working on one of the most urgent issues in Canada right now, access to housing and financial inclusion. What did you see or experience that made you say that this is a problem that I want to commit myself to solving?
I immigrated to Canada about 9 years ago and came in with some what I would consider good experience in financial services, right? So I had worked in some of the major banks in Nigeria, and I also worked for a specialized team within the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Nigeria to help banks think about credit differently. And then when I came to Canada to extend my career as an international student and of course working, I came in excited, but I had to deal with some initial barriers around housing. So it was very difficult for me to rent when I came, and I got denied so many times from different landlords until some of them were kind enough to say, you don't have Canadian credit history, so that's going to be a challenge for you. And it just never made any sense to me because I thought I had a great history in Nigeria. I can pay the rent. So I just couldn't find the connection between not having a Canadian credit history and how am I supposed to have a Canadian credit history? I just came, right? So that experience never left me. Fast forward a few months after that, I started working with RBC and then BMO, and it became clearer to me why credit is a center conversation in financial services. I also noticed that Canada is bringing in all of these hundreds of thousands of people every year. And the biggest question on my mind is, do they all have to go through the same barriers that I face? I felt that was an injustice and unfairness to all of the smart people that Canada bring every year. I thought this has to be fixed somehow. So I decided to put up my hand to fix the problem. And that's what got us here today.
Well, that's incredible. And I'm thinking about my own experience looking for housing when I landed in Canada. It's a real barrier, lack of credit history, and you are expected to figure that out on your own. The banks don't have any credit history for you, and therefore the housing becomes a real issue to access. Then you're left to the mercies of a good landlord that will say, I'll take a chance on you. So that's really amazing that you use your own personal experience and said, I want to take a chance and see what I can do to support not just myself, but those that are coming after me. I'm interested to hear more. How did you transition? Because you actually started in chemical engineering. How did you transition from that to where you are now working in financial inclusion?
I get that question all the time. Being trained as an engineer did something very interesting to me, which is teaching me how to think analytically, which is recognizing patterns and then knowing how to connect the dots in things. So I read engineering, but while in school, I started my first formal business as a student doing engineering. And then I got really interested in business. So I contemplated switching careers from engineering to business, but I was already in my third, fourth year at the time. So I decided to just graduate. I was a great engineering student, by the way. Like I wasn't having any challenges. I went through engineering seamlessly. I
Wow.
had an appetite for business more. So when I left school, I was very clear that I never wanted to work for any engineering role. So I never applied for any engineering role ever. So I went straight into banking and I applied for banking jobs, and that was how I got into banking.
Wow, that is such an incredible experience. And I know a lot of people have similar experiences where you get into this course and you think that's what you're going to be doing for the rest of the university time. And halfway into it, you realize that you're not as passionate or you're more interested in another area. And you said you had your first business as a student. I'm curious to know what business was that?
Yeah. So when I was in school, I started reading leadership business books, right? And I thought that there was so much insight and knowledge from those books. And on campus at the time, I just felt that more and more people needed to read the kind of things that I was reading. I started publishing a leadership and business magazine on campus.
Wow.
Right. So it was my way of, man, all the things that I read in these books were so interesting, so insightful, and they were helping shape my perspective towards life. And that was why it was easy for me to say, I'm an engineering student, but I found what I really want to do with my life. So let me focus on that. So I could have that level of self-awareness because of the kind of books I exposed myself to. So I thought maybe I should put something out there that more and more students can read and also gain the kind of awareness that I had. So I started by, before the business. So when I read a book and I got inspired, I'll write out a whole piece of article,
Right.
print it out, and then I'll paste it on the entrance of all of the hostels on campus. And then
Okay.
I left my phone numbers there, and people will call me, oh, that was great. And I'm like, more and more people are getting interested in what I write. So why don't I just put this in one document? And someone said, maybe you should start a magazine. I'm like, right. So I thought it was too big, running a magazine, being an engineering student. I'm like, I'll give it a try. So I started publishing the magazine on campus at the time, and it did really well. It started with a few thousand copies, and then everything got sold out. Then I did the second edition. It went from my campus to three other campuses. And then I
Okay.
did the third edition. So it just kept growing until I graduated and then went into paid employment. So that was my business experience from campus.
But yeah, what a transition too. And that you were willing to try something outside of engineering.
Yeah.
And some of the people that listen to the podcast are students. They're either in the second or third year, and they're thinking, I would like to transition. I have learned so much in my course, but I feel a pull towards another area. How was that transition? You were confident enough to try something. How was that received? Did you have any encouragement towards that direction? Was there any sort of barrier that you had to overcome?
So it was a scary decision to make
Right.
because when I got into the university, chemical engineering was ranked amongst the most prestigious course to study in Nigeria at the time.
Right.
So the entry barriers were really high. The entrance requirement was really high. It had the highest score requirements to get into.
Mm-hmm.
So I got into the program, and then somewhere towards the end, I had another appetite. The reason why chemical engineering was so prestigious was most people who read engineering went to work in oil and gas, and they get paid so much money.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't make sense that I did not want that. And it wasn't as if my parents were like billionaires. No, they were not. Right.
Mm.
So I was carving out my own path for myself.
Right.
I wanted to do something else. I never had a clear picture of what exactly that was. I thought I want to be in business. I want to understand how money and the financial system works, right? That was just an interest that I had, and I was willing to explore that. It wasn't so easy to say, I don't want to work in engineering. That wasn't an easy decision. It was scary at the time.
Yeah.
And I kept asking myself, is this really what you want to do? Are you really willing to forego not working for the big oil and gas companies and going into something you're not even sure about? Like, those were very hard questions that were too much to process at the time for my age.
Yes.
But the only thing that kept me going was I thought, you know what? I'm going to figure this out somehow. Let me go in there and make the best out of it. So if there's anyone here listening, maybe you are in an engineering profession or a STEM profession and you're wondering, maybe I should drop this. My recommendation is don't drop it. Finish the program. Always finish the program. Engineering gives you a very, very solid base for anything you want to do in life, right? Whether you want to go into music, you want to be an artist, you want to be in business, you even want to work in like engineering gives you a very, very solid base for anything you want to do. So for me, that decision wasn't easy. Even in the first few years when I was in banking, my friends in oil and gas were making 10 times my pay,
Yeah.
right? And it was really hard to keep going. I'm like, are you sure you don't want to make a switch? My grades were sound. Are you sure you don't want to make a switch from banking to maybe the oil and gas, right? But I said no to it. I started seeing people who were doing so well in banking. And I
Mm.
thought maybe someday I could not be like them, but maybe build a bank, right? I wasn't thinking in terms of rising to become the next GM. That was never, I never had any such aspiration in my life. I've never aspired to be the VP of the company. Never. It doesn't exist anywhere in my roadmap. My goal has always been I can build something that looks like this. So I always wanted to know who built this company.
Yeah.
What was he thinking when he built this? Like those were the stories that I wanted to read about. So I read a lot of biographies when I was younger at the time. And it made me realize that the way to go was to build something that could create opportunity for other people and solve a problem.
That's something that really resonates with a lot of people when it comes to career transitions, that there's a lot of uncertainty. Sometimes you're moving from something that is really solid and you look at the evidence and it should make sense that you should want that. But somehow you're interested in another area of work and it's very uncertain. You're not sure how it's going to go. When you compare the two, you are always doubting and wondering, am I making the right decision? And it sounded to me that you kept yourself encouraged by moving forward in that direction and moving past the doubt and saying, I want to build something. I believe I can build something. And it doesn't have to do really with the amount of money that I'm earning. While that is important, but you are very interested in building something that is impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing I was going to add to that, to what you just said, is I think the things we regret the most in life are the things we never tried,
Right.
right? If you weigh your biggest regrets in life, they will hardly be things you did. They will mostly be things you never tried.
Mhm.
I wish I had done this. I wish I had said this. I wish I had tried that. Because regret lives in our inactions more than our. You can apologize for your actions, but you can never apologize for things you never tried.
Mhm.
Because regret lives in the things we never tried in life. I learned that early. And I decided that when I was very keen about a space or something I wanted to do, even when what I have looks very shiny and certain, I will go after what my mind is asking me to do. And if I fail, I can always come back. But I have to try first.
That is so powerful, Pascal. If you can share more, how did you come to this realization? Because it's so powerful, and many people come to that realization much later in their careers.
I'll say I was lucky, right?
Mhm.
I just listened to people speak a lot. Then during my career days, I found out that most of the leaders I work with, they were not very happy with their jobs. And I
Mhm.
was surprised. You're making so much money. You should be happy, right? But at one point, it became clearer that there is no correlation between your job title and your happiness. There is absolutely no correlation. You think you want that title, that position, you get it. 2 months, you're still great. 6 months, you flatten, right? So there's no strong correlation between your job title and happiness. I found out that the things that really hold people down, and I read this one time, which was a research was done where someone was interviewing people on their way out of life, people that were dying, right? To really understand what was your biggest regret. Most people would say things like, I wish I had done X. I wish I had done Y. I wish I had spent more time with family. I wish I had done this. So there was never, like, you didn't really hear people say things like, I regret doing this. No, people don't usually regret what they did. You can apologize, you can ask for forgiveness. But
Yeah,
the things you never did or tried, those ones live in you. And those are the ones that eat you up the most.
that's powerful. And I agree with you. I think it's a lucky thing to come to this realization sooner than later, when it's too late for you to actually do the things that you wanted to do. Either you don't have the time or you don't have the energy, your health is no longer there, so you're not physically able to pursue those things. Now, let's talk about leadership. You are in a leadership position right now. What has the leadership journey been for you, and what are parts of your identity that have marked your leadership journey or influenced how you lead?
Yeah. So this is a very interesting part. To me, how I perceive leadership is if someone doesn't want to hang around you, you can't lead them. Whether you pay them $1 billion or you pay them $1, it doesn't matter. So if someone doesn't want to spend time with you in any way, shape, or form, then you can't lead them. In my opinion, the best acid test for leadership is the people you lead, do they want to hang out with you?
When
If
you hang out, just shed a bit more light. What do you mean
just
by that?
just talk about anything, it could be anything,
Right.
whether it's work, whether it's not work, do they want to hang around you? If it's work, do you inspire them to do great work, right? If it's not work, are you somebody that they can have a conversation with?
Right.
So I found out that a lot of people focus on doing the job. They hire you, they pay you a salary, they expect you to get the job done, right? That's management, right? You put resources in to get a certain output. In my opinion, that's not leadership. So leadership to me is making people aspire to things that are bigger than what they ordinarily would have done themselves. I'll give you an example. What we are building at Binta, nobody in the team has built anything like this before,
Right.
right? And people show up, take on responsibilities that are way above their head. And they have to like stretch to take on those responsibilities, grow, do things that really inspire them to believe in themselves even more. I can do a whole lot more. My mantra is I want the people that work with me in 5, 10, 15, 20 years after they've left working with me, I want them to remember the experience as their best work experience ever. And that has nothing to do with how much money I pay them. It has everything to do with how I treat them. Okay. That's why I said if they don't want to hang around me, then I've lost being a leader with them. I've had to let some people go for different reasons, but some of the guys I've let go still send me happy birthday messages, right? And we didn't fight. Like the job just did not work out. Sometimes people are just not the right fit for roles. And how you go about that conversation is the real test of your leadership. I see leadership treating people like people. People are first humans before they became employees. So most times we reverse that. We suppress the humanity in people and treat them like employees. And I think when you do that, you become a terrible person. You get a job done, your numbers grow, but you're a terrible human being. Nobody likes you. I always talk about this a lot. The day you will be on the other side of life, people will not remember how great you were at work. They will only remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
So that's my concept of leadership.
Sure. Well, that is a beautiful thing. And what I take away from that is humanity first.
Absolutely. And I've heard things like people don't know better, so they only give what they have. I've worked with extremes of people, leaders or managers or people I reported to. Some have been amazing human beings. Others have been very terrible human beings. They have no business having people under them. They should work just alone by themselves, sending out their deliverables. They shouldn't have any business leading people. So I've seen the extremes and reflecting on both experiences, working with people that really inspired, challenged, helped me grow. versus people who tried to put me down, made me feel terrible every Sunday night because Monday is work. I told myself that when I bring people into this vision, into this journey of Binta, if I cannot achieve option A, which is bringing out the best out of them, making them feel like this is the best place they could be on the planet. If I cannot achieve that with someone, I will not hire them.
Right. Bringing out the best in people.
Absolutely. And in our team, we have all these rules. I call them rules, things that must not happen. You can get fired just for disrespecting another team member. Those are the things that get you easily fired. If you make somebody's heart beat faster when they're in a meeting because of how you talk to them or how your message lands on their mailbox, those are the real conversations that we don't tolerate. So you can be displeased with someone's quality of work. It is the quality of work, it's not the person. So you should learn to separate that. So deal with the work, not the person, right?
Mhm.
And if
Mhm.
someone exhibits a certain behavior that is inconsistent with our core values, have a conversation about it. So there is no room here to treat people as if they don't matter. That room doesn't exist. We've had to let a leader go because someone else complained that they made them feel terrible each time they came to work. And we investigated to know, how did you come to that conclusion? And we found out the person was being very disrespectful, made them feel less of who they were. And I understand that this person is not, punching up to their standard, but your messages that made them feel this way is totally unacceptable. So this is not the place for that. So we cannot condone this behavior of this type of leadership here. You can take that somewhere else.
Wow, the psychological safety that you create for your employees is commendable. I know a lot of people that dread Monday mornings because they don't feel safe going there. They don't feel respected, they don't feel welcome, and it creates real stress, and I'm sure it impacts their outputs at work.
It does. And I think that's the worst thing you can do to another human being. Feel very terrible. To make another person feel really terrible showing up at work simply because you pay them a salary.
Mhm.
That's just not okay. We're not a perfect company. We have a few other areas where we are growing, but on this part of how we treat people is something that is really core to
Mhm.
the company, that we would we would bend on other things, but on this piece, we do not tolerate it. We don't tolerate it from leaders to people that work under them or vice versa. There is no room for that here.
That is really powerful. And I hope we can have more companies that are thinking about leadership in the way that is really putting humanity and the psychological well being of employees first and foremost. Are there moments you've had to redefine what leadership means to you?
Yes. So before now, I don't used to fire people,
Yeah.
right? Before now, it's been on the extreme. I
Mm,
was so good, I can't fire someone.
mhm.
But that was dangerous. That was actually destroying the person.
Right.
I had to grow up to know that no, when you have understanding with people and milestones are clear and behaviors are inconsistent with expectations, have a conversation about it. And if the person consistently does not learn or grow or become better, then you need to have another conversation. That's something I had to learn. And I found out that when you create that balance between care and candor, what happens is you build a very solid team. I don't know any employee in our team who doesn't go above and beyond on their job today. I have no one that I'm aware of.
Mhm.
People, without being told, we have a deadline. There's a client meeting coming up. We have a big presentation. People volunteer. They work extremely long hours, sometimes work on weekends, pull me into calls and say, I want to show you this, please. Take a look at this and see, does this help with the client conversation?
Mhm.
They do that by themselves. So I've had employees go way above and beyond, working extremely hard. You don't need to yell at people to get the best out of them. When you make people feel that they matter in an environment, they will give their best.
That is so true. I couldn't agree more. And I wonder whether there are parts of your identity that have shaped how your leadership shows up.
Absolutely. I care a lot about the people I work with. And I think that that's very traditional in African settings. I love people. I love community. All of the guys in our team, whether they are Africans, North Americans, like it doesn't matter where you're from. That whole concept of treating people like people is something that I grew up learning. Another part of me also, being a Black person who immigrated to Canada, we've all dealt with all our own challenges, right? How you were discriminated against in different ways. So I've seen struggle, and I don't want to be the reason why another person struggles. I know the pain and the trauma that struggling can cause. And because I understand that, I would have failed if I let someone else go through a type of struggle that I can prevent.
Mhm.
Those are parts of my identity that has really helped in terms of how I lead people. The other piece is I'm a Christian, and I understand that there is good and evil. I understand that you should treat people the way you want to be treated. I understand that being good is the right thing to do. Those hardcore Christian values also drive how I lead people because I just think it's the right thing to do. You have more peace, you sleep well, you can look forward to your future and not be bothered when you treat people well.
Your identity, your values shape the leader that you are today.
Absolutely.
I think that's really important because in leadership, sometimes there are parts of ourselves that we compartmentalize and we take away from our leadership. And I know that's really challenging for a lot of people to bring and integrate who they are into leadership.
Yeah. I also, to your point, I also believe that there's a very high degree of self-awareness that anybody who wants to lead must have.
Right.
If you really understand who you are, your triggers, your excitements, the things that gets you high and low, you really need to understand all of that about yourself because the challenge is that because people are not really self-aware, it's very hard to lead other people. So they think that the problem is with the person, but you need to understand yourself first. If you have a good grasp of who you are, it's very easy to know how to work with other people,
Yeah.
right? And I don't know anyone who doesn't want to be treated right. I haven't met that person yet.
Yeah.
If you really want to know how best to treat people, always ask yourself, what will make me feel good? That's self-awareness. And if you believe that respect, transparency, being authentic, making promises and keeping to them, helping people grow, if you believe those things will make you feel good as a person, trust me, they will look as good as the other person beside you.
Yeah, absolutely. I also believe in, a high level of self-awareness and leadership because the more you know about yourself, the more you're able to communicate, strategize, and support your team. Because when you don't have that, then you struggle to actually understand what other people need.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of people that listen that came here as international students, and there's always that gap of transitioning from school into full-time work. What would you say were the most helpful tools or supports that you got to navigate that?
That's an interesting one. That piece doesn't have a silver bullet, unfortunately, but I'll share a few things that were helpful for me. Every opportunity that you want in life is either one person away from you or two people away from you. If the number is more than two, then you really need to work on your network,
Okay.
right? I also understand that opportunities come through people. Whether you see a post on LinkedIn for someone trying to hire or you see a job posting on the company's website, someone put it there.
Yeah.
For people who are new to a country like Canada, I usually will recommend building your network. And I usually also recommend starting from your community. It's
Yeah.
easier. It's easier to plug yourself into an environment where you understand what a joke means,
Yeah.
right? You know what makes people laugh. So get into your environment first.
Yeah.
And then from your environment, you can get context to the bigger environments. But don't stop there. You also want to reach out and see who else is on the other side, because there's a very high chance that the person who would give you the next opportunity is not from your environment. There's a chance that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
So if all your investments in networking is only within your environment, then you would lose out on the bigger environment. Canada is one of the most diverse countries in the world. When you show up and as a Black person, you only want to hang out with Black people, there's a problem with that, right?
Mhm.
Your perception of the environment is going to be very narrow. The stories of the environments you understand is going to be very narrow. Your opportunities to be narrow as well. So I usually recommend, I love the African community. I think that's where you and I met.
Yes.
Beyond that, there is the Chinese, there is the Indians, there is the Canadian, like everyone, like have a rich network of people. That gives you a broader scope to understanding Canada. That's one. The second piece is you also want to make sure that when you spread your network as such, it's easier to reach out to people and say, I'm interested in this. If you know anyone within your space, let me know. Broadening your network really helps. In my case, that was one thing that made a lot of difference.
Right.
Networking, meeting people, I never selected. So for me, it was everyone who was closer to the opportunity that I'll reach out to, ask for coffee, and then take it from there. It's a very uncomfortable process. We tell people network as if network is walking into Walmart and picking a pair of shoes.
Mm.
It's really hard. It's really hard. So I'll give you an example. I came into Canada and I've never had any interactions with the Chinese or Indians, never in my entire life.
Right.
If you tell me, oh, network with other people, that sounds very easy. It's hard. I don't know what makes a Chinese man laugh at that time, right? I don't know what an Indian considers offensive. I do not. So
Yeah.
networking for an immigrant or a newcomer is a really hard thing to do, which is why I recommend start with your familiar circle.
Yeah.
That gives you context to the broader circle, but don't stay within your familiar circle. Reach out to meet more people, have more conversations, and above all, listen more than you speak in the initial days.
Yeah.
The more you listen, the more you take in, the more you can process and understand how things work. You really want to understand how the whole machine works. When you know how the machine works, it's easier for you to know what to push within the machine to get the results you want. The
Yeah.
problem is that people just show up and are not giving themselves the chance to really explore. And then people feel stuck. They've been around for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. They haven't been able to get the kind of opportunity that match their skill set.
Yeah.
And then some just give up.
Yeah.
Okay. I have this whole concept called 4 types of immigrants,
Mhm.
and I'm going to publish it soon.
Right.
Now, 4 types of immigrants, there are people who show up, they were very successful from home. They came here, they try, the system beats them, they just go back home. They just say, Canada is not for me.
Yeah.
The second set of people, they come in here, they try, hit the same brick walls, and then they just go above the wall, and then they land jobs that are below their capacity and their training.
Mhm.
And they keep saying, I will keep going up, I will keep trying more, but they get exhausted. They stay at jobs way below their skill set forever. The
Mhm.
third set of immigrants coming here go through phase one. They don't go back home. They go over the fence, land those jobs that are below their skill set, and then try and keep applying for better opportunities. And then they land a job that matches their skill set. That's the third type of immigrant. Those are the ones you see very active on LinkedIn. They're doing well, they're posting, they're getting promotions. That's great. There is a fourth type of immigrant. They go through first phase, second phase, third phase, and they tell themselves that I think I can do more.
Mhm.
I can build systems. I can run for office. I can create a business. I can create massive systemic change. Those ones become pioneers.
Mhm.
Those are the four types of immigrants. Every immigrant has a chance to go through these four phases.
Yeah.
The problem is that they are never aware
Yeah.
that these phases do exist. People just realize after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years that they've landed somewhere, but they're not sure what happened to me that I landed here. So that's why I want to write about this more. I've taken time to study so many people since I came to Canada, and
Yeah.
I realized that they fall into either of these four buckets.
I have a sense that you fall into the fourth bucket.
I don't know.
You are creating new systems in the financial sector and supporting newcomers and Canadians to get the support in terms of access to housing. As we now wind down our conversation here, I have a lot of people that reach out to me and they want a job. And when I ask them what kind of a job they want, they go, any kind of job. I just want a job. Where would you say those people are according to the four types of immigrants, and what would you advise those people?
So you're referring to those who just want a job.
Yeah, a lot of newcomers come to Canada with a lot of specialized professional experience, and they are in that space of transition and they're wondering, where do I start? And is there a process that yourself went through? Did you always know that you wanted this kind of a job when you completed university or when you came to Canada? Or have you gone through a process of figuring out what exactly you wanted to pursue?
Yeah. So I'll speak about my case, then I'll try to answer the question. For me, I generally do not follow trends. I don't chase shiny objects. I don't go after what is popular. Not because I see them and I stay away from them. I always take my time to study what is popular, what is trendy, just to ask myself, is this for me? Right.
Hmm.
And if it's not for me, I will resist the urge to go after it. I don't care who else is doing it.
Right.
I always ask myself what is best for me now. And I ask myself what will matter in 5 years, in 10 years.
Hmm.
When I made the decision to work for a bank, the reason I chose banking in Canada was because I had experience in banking. It's easier to get a banking job here, right?
Right.
Secondly, I knew that someday I'll build something in banking. I just wasn't sure what it was.
Hmm.
So I wanted an environment that would give me the juice that I needed for that future.
Right.
That's why I chose banking. There are way more attractive jobs than banking in the world. I can tell you, banking is not the most, it's not the coolest jobs on the planet. Take it from me.
No, it's not. I started out my career in banking, actually.
Fantastic. So I'm sure you know that already. So I chose banking for that reason. Now, to your question around people who just want a job,
Yeah.
I usually would say that I don't really care what your first job is. It doesn't matter what your first job is. When you land here, life gets real. You
Yeah.
have bills to pay. You have family. In my case, I came with my wife and my daughter. You have reality in front of you. You must pay your
Hmm.
bills or you go back home,
Yeah.
right? So at that level, I don't care what job you take on. As long as it's dignifying, it's the right thing to do, it's a good job, you're getting paid, you can handle your bills. As long as the job checked those boxes, that's okay. The problem is where you stay after that job.
Hmm.
So some people want to be selective on their first jobs. Oh, I can't do this job, I can't do that. That's okay. Like people decide what they want. But when people ask me what job, what do I think? I've had a friend who was offered a position and she said it was below her position where she's from.
Yeah.
And I said, do you have another job? She said, no. So why did you say no to this one? And then she was like, oh, but I thought I'm supposed to go for higher. I said, no, you should go for what pays your bills right now. Higher will always come,
Yeah.
right? And I always say that a job is not a marriage. Even marriages break today, these days, right?
Yeah.
Take the
Yeah.
job. When you're tired, you move on to something else, or take the job, pay your bills, and then ask yourself, is this what I really want to do? If the answer is no, you are not a tree. Move, right? So if someone just wants a job, I will encourage them to just get a job, just so that they can keep the bills going. If you are not paying your bills as an immigrant, it creates undue pressure
Yeah.
on you. So I always tell people, try and make sure that you're not under financial stress. It's among the worst kind of stress you can have as a human being after health.
I would agree with you. I also did not have the perfect job when I came here. There is that phase where you are doing whatever job that you can to be able to pay your bills. And after that, there's the work that you need to do to really understand where your skills and your assets really match the kind of job you can be able to get, and then create a strategy towards that. Now,
Yeah.
going forward, Pascal, you talked about thinking in terms of horizons, and I'm curious to know what kind of impact is on the horizon for you.
You- So in terms of impact, the company has made some really good progress, and the team has worked really hard to get some good attention in North America now. We've had some really big players who are interested in the work that we're doing, and that's wonderful. In terms of horizon, some of these conversations we are having today are conversations we thought would happen in 5 years, but they're happening way earlier than we thought. We feel that what we are building at Binta would make a ton of a difference within the global financial ecosystem. And for us, that's actually what keeps us going as a team. Every
Mhm.
day we sit down and imagine the hundreds of thousands of people whose life are going to change because of what we've built. That's more than exciting for us. And we believe that in the next few years, people coming to Canada, going to the US, UK, Europe, Australia would have their lives simplified. And we're talking about like millions of people on that journey will have their lives simplified by virtue of some of the contributions we are making today. So that's where the horizon of impact for me looks like right now.
Well, that's incredible. And I look forward to seeing what that impact is going to look like across the globe. It's really exciting to see what you're building, Pascal. Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode. And to our listeners, thank you for joining this episode and staying for the conversation. I'm sure this episode resonated. If you'd like to find out more about the work that we're doing, you can visit our website, minikaranja.com. Thank you again, Pascal. It was nice to have you.
A pleasure, Minnie. Good to see you as well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.